At 3 in the morning, in a classified Special Operations Command base, a Delta Force operator removes his wedding ring. He places it next to his wallet, his phone, and a sealed letter he wrote 2 hours ago. A letter his wife will only receive if he doesn't come back. In 30 minutes, he'll be inside an MH-60 helicopter flying toward hostile territory. But right now, in this silent hallway, he's simply a man looking at a photograph of his children. This is what Hollywood never shows. There are no dramatic speeches, no epic music, just the sound of boots on concrete and the weight of what's coming. The night before a Delta Force mission is a ritual that separates elite warriors from everyone else. And what happens in those final 18 hours reveals more about these operators than any firefight or explosion ever could. Let's go back 18 hours. It's 9 in the morning, the day before the operation. The assault team gathers in a windowless briefing room. The walls are covered with satellite maps, reconnaissance photographs, and building diagrams. The intelligence officer begins speaking. According to declassified Pentagon documents, these final briefings can last between 4 and 6 hours. Each operator receives an information packet that includes drone imagery taken in the last 72 hours, reports from human sources on the ground, and pattern of life analysis on the target. The team commander goes through the plan one more time. But here's what separates Delta from any other unit. Every operator must be able to draw the target's floor plan from memory. Every room, every door, every window, every possible ambush point. Eric Haney, former Delta operator and author of Inside Delta Force, described these briefings as exercises in obsessive memorization. An operator who cannot recite the complete plan without notes doesn't get on the helicopter. But the plan is only the beginning, because in Delta Force, there's a phrase that defines their entire operational philosophy. The enemy gets a vote. It means no plan survives first contact with the enemy. That's why, after the primary plan, come the contingency plans. What to do if the primary helicopter gets shot down? What to do if the target isn't at the expected location? What to do if there are civilians in the impact zone? What to do if an operator goes down wounded in the first 30 seconds? According to reports from U.S. Special Operations Command, a typical Delta briefing includes between 15 and 20 contingency scenarios, each one mentally rehearsed, each one with specific protocols. At 3 in the afternoon, 12 hours before the operation, physical rehearsals begin. Delta Force operates training facilities that replicate real targets with millimeter precision. If they're going to assault a 3-story building in Syria, they build an exact replica of that building. Same dimensions, same doors, same hallways. The operators execute the complete assault. Once, twice, 5 times, 10 times. But here's the crucial detail. Each repetition includes deliberate variations. On the 3rd rehearsal, they simulate the main door being blocked. On the 5th, one operator pretends to be wounded. On the 7th, they change the target's location inside the building. The goal isn't to memorize a perfect sequence. It's to internalize principles that work when reality deviates from the plan. And reality always deviates from the plan. According to testimonies from Delta veterans published by Special Operations Command, these rehearsals continue until every operator can execute their role, even if everything goes wrong. Even if they lose communication with the rest of the team. Even if they're operating alone in complete darkness. At 9 at night, 6 hours before the operation, rehearsals end. Equipment preparation begins. Every Delta operator is responsible for their own kit. Nobody else touches their gear. Nobody else loads their magazines. Nobody else checks their night vision. This ritual of personal preparation might seem obsessive, and it is, but it serves a specific psychological function. When an operator has personally verified every piece of their equipment, they eliminate an entire category of uncertainty. They don't have to wonder if their weapon will function. They cleaned it. They tested it. They loaded every round. Weapons are completely disassembled, cleaned, lubricated, reassembled, then fired on a test range to confirm function. Night vision devices are calibrated. Batteries are replaced with fresh units, even if the current ones have charge. Communication equipment is verified on every frequency. Medical kits are checked piece by piece. And there's a detail few people know. Every Delta operator carries their blood type marked in multiple places on their gear. On the vest, on the helmet, on the boots. If they go down wounded and unconscious, combat medics need that information in seconds. At midnight, 4 hours before the operation, the gear is ready. But getting ready doesn't mean what you might think. Eric Haney described this period as the strangest of all. Some operators call home, others deliberately don't. Some write letters that will only be delivered if they don't return. Others refuse to write because they believe it's bad luck. In the team room, there are headphones with music, each operator in their own world. Heavy metal, country, classical music, hip-hop. Nobody judges, nobody asks. Some pray, some play cards, some simply sit in silence staring at the wall. This time isn't idle, it's psychological management of fear. And here we arrive at something the general public doesn't understand. Delta Force operators experience fear. The myth of the fearless soldier is exactly that, a myth. The difference isn't the absence of fear, it's the ability to manage it. Veterans from special operations units have described a technique called boxing. You acknowledge the fear, you identify it, and you mentally place it in a box that you close and set aside. You don't deny it. You don't pretend it doesn't exist. You simply decide that it won't control your actions for the next few hours. Those who can't do this don't pass Delta selection. Not because they're cowards, but because the ability to compartmentalize emotions under extreme pressure is a fundamental requirement of the job. At 2 a.m, the team gathers at the flight line. The helicopters from the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment are already spinning their rotors. The pilots from Special Operations Aviation, known as the Night Stalkers, are the only ones authorized to transport Delta Force on combat missions. There's one final intelligence update. Any changes in the last 6 hours, target movements, new threats detected, weather changes that might affect insertion. The ground force commander makes the final decision, green light or abort. At this moment, with engines roaring and the team ready, they can still cancel if intelligence indicates the mission has been compromised. But if the light is green, the final ritual begins. Personal items are secured, wallets, phones, anything that could identify the operator or reveal information if captured. Everything goes into lockers that will only be opened when the team returns. Wedding rings come off, dog tags are checked. These are the only objects that will confirm the operator's identity if the worst happens. And then, in silence, the team walks toward the helicopters. If you've watched war movies, you expect some kind of motivational speech, some moment of camaraderie expressed in words. But Delta veterans describe this moment as completely silent. There's nothing to say. Every man knows exactly what he has to do. Words would be a distraction. They sit in the helicopter, seatbelts are fastened, the ramp closes, and in the darkness of the cargo compartment, with the roar of engines drowning out every other sound, something happens that defines these operators. The person disappears. The man with a wife and children, the man who listens to country music and plays cards, the man who wrote a letter he hopes is never delivered. That man fades away. What remains is the operator, focused, compartmentalized, running purely on training and instinct. Veterans have described this transition as a switch that flips, a specific moment, usually between the last joke on the flight line and the first step toward the aircraft, where the brain changes modes. The ability to make this transition is what Delta selection actually tests for. Not physical strength, not marksmanship, the ability to become an execution machine when the moment requires it and return to being human when the mission ends. The helicopter lifts off. The base lights disappear below. All that remains is the darkness of the night sky and the green glow of night vision. In 30 minutes, they'll be over the target. In 45 minutes, the mission will be over one way or another. But that doesn't matter anymore. Because right now, inside that helicopter, there is no future and no past. Only the next action exists. The next step, the next second. And that ability to exist completely in the present, to eliminate everything except the immediate task, is the real secret of how Delta Force operators survive what most soldiers will never experience. The question is this: of the thousands of soldiers who try to enter Delta Force every year, only 1% make it. And of that 1%, some eventually can't handle the weight of these silent nights before missions. So what kind of mind can do this for 10, 15, 20 years? And what happens to these men when they finally hang up the uniform and have to become normal people again, in a world that will never understand the nights they spent removing their wedding rings before walking into the darkness?